writer covering the Minnesota Vikings, does some Minnesota Wild work too for the Pioneer Press. TwinCities.com at Dane Mizutani via X. Follow him as 9 to noon does if you are so inclined. And nice enough to spend some Monday time with us after a listless preseason game against Baltimore. Lowest scoring preseason game of all of them, week 2. We managed 16. The Kene Wanwu-led New York Jets managed 17. And they beat Pittsburgh 17-0. Denver to close festivities. That'll be Friday, 8 o'clock, KFAN for the boom. The faux boom, that is. And here's Dane. That listless nature of that game full of backup Saturday. I want to say what if anything did you pull from it? But see, now I'm talking to a beat writer. So yes, he pulled things from it like the Jacobs and Banks playing every first half. So I know there are things you pulled from the game, but do you think it's a fair way to describe it as the listless type game Saturday? And good morning.
Good morning. Yes, I think it was listless. That's a perfect word for it. Took a nice nap in the press box. I'm just kidding. But
that good food up there will do that.
Yeah, they get us all fat and happy, and then you forget that the game was not necessarily always worth watching. But no, overall, I think when you look at a preseason game, and if you're paying to go, it might just be your only opportunity to get to US Bank Stadium. It's a beautiful stadium. There's a ton of stuff to do. It's always a good experience. But if you're going to the game as a beat writer, you're just looking for storylines, for little nuggets, little takeaways. I know J.J. McCarthy and Carson Wentz was the big talker coming out of it, but there was a lot more.
And into it.
Truly. But there was a lot more that comes out of this game that applies to week 1 of the regular season. So are we going to talk about the J.J. McCarthy, Carson Wentz potential battle for quarterback 2? Yes, we have to do that, especially when it features a guy that you drafted number 10 overall in 2024.
But let's be straight. It wins. I mean, I said it atop the show, and I'm being straight with the crowd. You write about it. You put it on film. You talk into a microphone about it. You podcast about it. You social media type about it. It wins. It
absolutely does. And there's value to that. But also there's value to, like you mentioned, Caleb Banks, Jacob Thomas continuing to show up. Jake Golday being used all over the formation. Dominique Orange dropping into coverage. All of these things are wrinkles that I think are more applicable to how the 2026 version of the Minnesota Vikings are going to perform in week 1 and every week thereafter. So we're obviously going to talk about the J.J. McCarthy misses, the Carson Wentz ability to lead the team down the field, but maybe taking some sacks that he'd want back. I'm interested in everything else that went into that game that I think we can both agree pretty listless in the end.
So as we said, your writer talk about J.J. McCarthy, and it for sure moves the meter. It's proven, and we don't have to get into how we know it's proven. We just know, working in the media business, that it's a proven winner, especially at this stage of the equation. But winning in the age of rage can be tricky. So why do you think the backup quarterback talker is so hot and polarizing? And maybe it's analogous to the era, but the savagery is super loud with McCarthy, and the defense is also super loud.
Yeah, I think that's just kind of the nature of where we're at. People have a hard time talking about polarizing things with any nuance, and the truth is it always probably exists somewhere in the middle. Yeah. Was it the best performance from J.J. McCarthy? No. Was it the worst performance from J.J. McCarthy? No. But I think it becomes the first and foremost talker because a week ago, 2 weeks ago, he was in a competition with Kyler Murray to potentially be quarterback 1. And it is a worthwhile discussion. Do we think if Kyler Murray were to turn an ankle on September 13th against the Green Bay Packers, gives the Vikings the best chance to win coming into the game cold, or does that, mantle go to Carson Wentz and his ability to run the offense? So it's worth talking about, but it really does get a little tired sometimes when everything is either the best or the worst.
Thank you.
And nothing in between.
And see, I was like, I mean, without even trying, and you're at more practices than me. You're at more press conferences than me, man. So I think, so you have your ideas too. But when it comes to prep for 20 days from today, the regular season opener, middle of the afternoon, U.S. Bank Stadium, Green Bay Packers. Top of the head, Banks and Citrus and development and progression in a division where all the teams want to run, by the way. You have a new center with a new quarterback. There have been those in the know, maybe even you, who have written and or tweeted about the new center with some inconsistencies with snaps, and they've been a little low. Without Hitman, I mean, is it, from a communicative standpoint, is it completely squared away back there? I don't know if it is or if it isn't, but if you believe they drafted Jacoby Thomas to play and he's not playing because of the back, then how do we read into that? I mean, the punter situation, we'll put that on the back burner. There, like Kyler. I mean, the level of trust in Kyler Murray in this situation when they count. I mean, yeah, with the staff and with this offensive line and everything around it, yeah, I do trust it will work, but we still need to see it. And then after that, the 2 and the 3 quarterback. I mean, that's like the prioritizing things. That's like 6 or 7, and that's where it rests for me. What about you?
Yeah, it really doesn't matter. Like, whoever plays QB2 in the grand scheme of the Vikings' ability to beat the Green Bay Packers in week 1 and the Chicago Bears in week 2 and every game thereafter, like, QB2 doesn't really matter as much as some of the things we're talking about. It's probably just fun fodder right now. JJ McCarthy versus Carson Wentz, like you mentioned, it clicks, it subscribes, it gets views on whatever platform you're looking for, and there is a worthwhile point to talking about it, but there's a point where you're right, like Caleb Banks, Dominique Orange, that is more important to the grand scheme of how the Vikings are going to perform this year. And that is kind of the difficult nature of this, is how much attention to give it. I think it's going to be a major talking point this week because, as Kevin O'Connell continues to talk about it, yes, J.J. McCarthy is the backup quarterback until further notice.
And I think that bugs people.
Yeah, I think it probably does. And I think that goes back to what we were talking about earlier, where it's hard to have a nuance-based discussion with somebody and something so polarizing. J.J. McCarthy's one of the most polarizing athletes I think I've ever covered. Right. And there are just, like you said, people who have planted their flag and said, I'm not moving. And then there are people that want him sent off into outer space. And I can't stress enough, it probably, the best way to look at it is probably somewhere in the middle. But I'm interested this week in everything you just talked about. The things that really matter into going into week 1. Like, we're out there for practice for 3 more days. And then it's the whole bit in the regular season where we just get to take attendance. But I'm curious how Blake Brandel and Kyler Murray are going to look.
I like that, how you put that.
Like Blake Brandel, and he's been up front. He needs to be better with the ball placement on his shotgun snaps.
Thomason would hide behind a blocking sled.
He would. In
security, have to ask him to leave.
He was always somewhere.
Yep.
He still is.
He still is. But I think
he and Sean Payton don't argue in press conferences anymore, though.
Only that one time that went elite. Super viral.
So right out of the gate, it was elite. But anyway,
hey, you'll get to see my guy Thomason in Denver this week. So. But I'm interested this week in practice, and kind of our last opportunity to see these guys practice for the full duration, the full 2 hours, to kind of take note and observe all of the things, I guess, outside of the quarterback 2 competition.
Dane Mizutani at Dane Mizutani via X. If and or when you tweet about J.J. McCarthy. Now, I didn't look at Dane Mizutani today. I did yesterday, but when he went old school reference Nolan Ryan, when he went fastball on it to Price, if you don't, either on TV or radio or on Twitter, explain it the exact proper way, well, there goes the age of rage. I mean, he threw it too hard. Yeah, but it hit him in the hands. Okay, it was a little high. Yeah, but there was a guy in his face trying to go Van Ginkel on it for 90 yards. It's the kid. It's just what. Why do you think? Well, if and or when you tweet or write about J.J. McCarthy, you ever look at the comments?
I used to. I try to avoid them now because they're...
Well, like Alec put a tweet out at 12:25 in the afternoon Saturday, and I'm doing Covenant catch-up Saturday night, and I'm looking through all your guys' stuff, and then I see that Alec tweet, and then there were already like 98 comments. I think it's at 120. And it was so polarizing to me that I actually copied and pasted some of them for today's radio show. Whether it was defense of him or attacking him. Now, it's keeping in perspective. That's 1 to 4% of the people reading your stories, listening to the radio show, looking or watching for things. It's a very small percentage, and I don't like to narrowcast that way, get like one email, spend an hour on it. However, you can't avoid it sometimes. Know what I mean?
Yeah, it's hard because you're right. Like, social media can be loud, and it can make it feel like this is the grand or the general consensus opinion. And it is important to remember that there probably is more. I've talked a lot about nuance on this segment. There's a lot more nuance that probably exists in this fan base than I even give them credit for.
Big time.
Because I live in that social media world.
With football and state of hockey for sure,
everything. And it has become a I know everything, you know nothing kind of reaction to everything that happens. I mean, if a team loses a couple games in the winter, they want to fire the head coach, and it probably doesn't rise to that level, but that's where we're at.
But see, that's a couple people. This is O'Connell said this, 100 comments.
Yeah.
He did that, 100 comments. He's the what? 100 comments. He threw it too hard. I just wonder why such vitriol associated with this curly-haired kid.
Yeah, I think the truth is probably a lot of people wanted him to be the franchise quarterback. He's the highest drafted quarterback that the Vikings have ever selected in the NFL draft, number 10 overall in 2024. And I think a lot of people thought he was and wanted him to be the franchise quarterback, and as soon as he wasn't, turned on him. And then I think there's a lot of people who want so badly to believe that he can still be the franchise quarterback. And I think that's where you create the division. But if we just watch some of the tape objectively, and I've watched it back a few times, and I'm not breaking news here, I think J.J. McCarthy would say this. There are just throws he has to make. And when you're missing Miles Price wide open in the end zone, when you're missing Ty Felton wide open or running towards a spot that he would be wide open in the end zone, when you're sailing Miles Price on a corner route on the first snap of the game, those are things that are going to create these polarizing discussions for better or for worse.
Is there any element of this with the coach as well? I mean, just think about the way that from 2022, he rolls in, that connection with Kirk. It's a terrific season, ends badly. And kind of off to a nice start with Kirk in 23 before the Achilles pops, and then it's Dobbs. 24, we have Darnold. The idea that this offense can be really good when the coach has all the right pieces, the idea that he, as a former quarterback himself, that he can connect with these guys. And now we're watching into year 3, maybe a lack of development with J.J. McCarthy. I wonder if there are a lot of fans that are frustrated. They're like, you're supposed to do this. This is my belief and my faith in you, Kevin O'Connell, that this shouldn't be the way that it is. I just wonder how much of that is mixed in, given when he has the right pieces, it goes well, and what we've seen out of McCarthy.
I think that's the identification of the next layer of the age of rage. Because it's McCarthy centric with some strays off what Eric is saying. But I mean, that's if this doesn't, visually get better to Rube Nation, I mean, I think that's coming next.
Yeah, I do think that there is a large section of the fan base that wants, and understandably so, the quarterback play wasn't up to par last year, but wants to see what we saw in 2024. And I think if a lot of the fan base was honest, they were ready to drive Sam Darnold to the airport after that playoff loss to the Los Angeles Rams.
Playoff loss, Week 18.
Both back to back. But I think those same people that wanted to drive him to the airport are now saying, well, why can't you get the most out of this next guy? I just think it's hard for certain groups or certain parts of the fan base and just, I guess, everybody at large to kind of discern that where Sam Darnold was at in his career is different than where J.J. McCarthy is at in his career and different than where Kyler Murray is at in his career. But I do think some of the anger, the age of rage does stem from the fact that people look at Kevin O'Connell as a quarterback whisperer and they haven't seen the results on a consistent basis that they want. So I guess we'll see this year. There's an opportunity to kind of for Kevin O'Connell to flip the narrative back, because when he repaired Sam Darnold, everybody loved him, and now there's some people that are turning on him because of how the J.J. McCarthy development has gone. I promise you, if he repairs Kyler Murray, everyone will be singing his praises once again.
But see, maybe this will happen with McCarthy, whomever, where you formulate an opinion, you clearly are wrong, and then you, whatever your outlet is, be a microphone here for me or you and I, and social media, or social media for fans, and you say you were wrong. Okay, and here's what I mean, is after Darnold missed 5 open guys for touchdowns to win the division in the most polarizing, ballyhooed, popular, viewed regular season game in the history of the NFL. Okay, well, we still got the playoffs, but I mean, it was like, wow, holy cow, how did that happen? Get sacked 9 times the next game. Can't put as much of that on him as I could the week before. And you were there. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Offensive line blocked. Guys ran their routes, got themselves open. He freaked out. So then I was like, all right, well, you got the kid. You got free agency. He's $100 million. Just let him go. I was wrong. I was absolutely 10 of 10 wrong. They never should have let him go. And they should have given him whatever he wanted. See, if there was more of that recognition that, I looked at it this way, and hey, I was completely wrong. And so were they. So let's all move on together. Know what I mean?
Yes. If people were more apt or willing to admit fault or when they were wrong, the conversation itself probably wouldn't be so polarizing. I'm with you. I thought after they lost to the Lions and then they lost to the Rams, and I was wrong. I thought they've gotten everything they can out of Sam Darnold.
Agreed.
And you have J.J. McCarthy waiting in the wings. You have to go there.
Agreed.
I was wrong. You were wrong.
Yeah.
And the truth is, I think the Vikings probably understand in some degrees that they were wrong. But we can't live in it's like when you're at the poker table. That money's gone. You can't keep throwing money in with a bad hand.
Yeah.
Money's gone. They've let Sam Darnold go. He won a Super Bowl with the Seattle Seahawks. They were wrong to let him go. But I think when people kind of attach themselves to kind of those feelings, that's probably part of the treatment J.J. McCarthy's getting, whether he brings some of that upon himself with his play or not.
Yeah, I just said, what was it, 4th year with a different starting quarterback week 1. And so, in the when we were talking about O'Connell and whether the decision to everyone, I was wrong as well. I was one of those people. We're going to move on because of the faith that we had in the development of J.J. McCarthy. And that plays into the coach. And it's just kind of interesting seeing, does Kevin O'Connell get a ton of praise for the work that he did with Darnold? In a lot of ways, but you also hear Darnold already had the experience and he was with Shanahan a year ago. Is it going to be similar this year if Kyler Murray is successful? You use the word repair. Well, is that repairing due to the coaching of Kevin O'Connell, or is that just Kyler with some funner, some more enjoyable toys around him on offense? The reason that I pair the coach and the QB is because we've been begging for a franchise quarterback as Rubes for so long. And out of respect and how impressed we are with what Kevin O'Connell's been able to do with this offense, the fact that we can't develop that kid, I just think those two things, those two individuals kind of go hand in hand with a lot of what I see on social and a lot of the negativity.
You pair the quarterback and the coach because those are the single biggest two entities everybody has squared away who win Super Bowls.
Right.
They have to be, you have to have the right coach and you have to have the right quarterback.
Yes.
And I'm also not as lost on the quote development end quote of JJ McCarthy as either that sounded or some other people are. I mean, he did win 6 games last year, and I've said this before, going into Ford Field and snapping a losing streak there. Well, that counts too. The fourth quarter against the Bears at Soldier Field, it's there. You know, the topsy-turvy nature of it, well, that's there too. That's what makes it perplexing.
Yeah, I think the challenging part with the development and as we kind of attach the coach and the quarterback at the hip, though, is just the timeline is different. Kevin O'Connell's going into year 5 now and has not won a playoff game, and that might not jive with developing J.J. McCarthy at the rate that maybe he needs to be developed at. At a certain point, you got to try to win, and if you think, yeah, maybe we can get more out of J.J. McCarthy, but it could take a while, well, you can't tell people, hey, you know, or you can't tell Justin Jefferson, hey, you know, we might take a little step back here because we want to develop this kid. Patience is you can only be as patient as your situation in the NFL, and right. I think part of that, you know, has rolled into the decision at the quarterback this year.
Dane Mizutani in studio 9 to noon discussing Vikings football, and we'll have a final segment with Dane after this.
This is 9 to noon on the Fan.
Y'all don't know football.
What's that fool doing? You homer! Sack! Come on! Pitch me so I know this is real.
Oh! All right, lastly here, I just want to make sure I have these cliche ducks in a row and I'm not like making a dumb mistake here. Jeremy Fowler, ESPN, old school, best school. I've known Jeremy 15, 20 years. I think he covered the team for the Pioneer Press.
He did. And
then ESPN, ESPN.com, and he's a national reporter for ESPN.com. He's on the big sports centers and First Take and all the right shows, and he does a really, really good job. So I caught a speculative piece of his on social media where he had a hit on SportsCenter, more so wondering if the Vikings should trade J.J. McCarthy as opposed to, I got steam. They're going to trade him, and it's going to be here, and it's going to be for a 6th. But where my mind went first, and here's where I need your help, just to make sure I'm not foolish here. So somebody paid Kyler Murray $33 million to leave, or whatever it was. $30-some-odd million to leave. He's on a 1-year deal. Carson Wentz is closer to the end of his career than the beginning, and he's on a 1-year deal. I mean, really? So trading this asset, no matter how much you perceive they like it or don't like it, I mean, it's about as close to a 0 of 10 for me as you can get. What do you think?
Yeah, I wouldn't do it. And I think I've said, like, Trey Lance went for a 4th-round pick once upon a time. If somebody offered you a 4th-round pick for J.J. McCarthy, I think maybe you think about it, but I think about it and then I still say no. Because, yes, Kyler Murray is on a 1-year deal and you can't franchise tag him next year. And if it goes great. They probably re-sign him.
Yeah.
And if it goes bad, well, they probably move on. But Carson Wentz, that's another, like you said, closer to the end of his career than the beginning. Also, if he does win the quarterback 2 job, how many games can he make it through with the way he plays the position at times? All of that is to say...
Are any of these guys healthy, Dane?
They're all healthy right now, I think. We'll get an update on J.J. McCarthy today. But all of that is to say I still don't think it tickles my fancy enough to trade a 23-year-old kid, 24-year-old kid for a 4th-round, 5th-round pick. You've put a lot of work into him. There is an opportunity for growth still, whether it's on the field or behind the scenes. It just doesn't do much for me to pick up a day 3 pick and give away an asset like that.
Well, great.
Could you sell yourself or anybody else on the idea of the fact that he is just 23? I think he's younger than Bo Nix was when Bo Nix was drafted, right? So, kind of the idea of, again, 10th overall pick, we understand the equity associated with it and such. And given the lack of potential trade value, then my goodness, guys, it's okay for him to be the 3. It's okay for him to be football's version of the E-bug for another year and take another crack at this thing. And that it will be Kyler and Carson, but regardless, it's okay to not give up on this guy, and he'll be, again, in the background running scout team stuff throughout practice weeks. But let's not rush to give up on our 10th overall pick.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. Like, I don't think there is no reason to give up on him completely and just send him away to whoever's willing to give you a draft pick. The only way I think I said at the time when Kyler won the quarterback competition, the only way I would have started actively looking to shop J.J. McCarthy is if he handled that situation poorly. And everything I've been told and witnessed with my own eyes is he hasn't handled it poorly.
Define handling it poorly.
Creating division in the locker room, checking out mentally.
Having your agent leak. McCarthy wants out or something.
Yeah. So, like, none of that has happened, and I think this is a kid who is very well liked in the locker room, and I think he's handling the situation as well as he can right now. And because of all that, I want him around still. I want to hold on to that asset as long as I can. And if it becomes nothing down the road, then so be it. But I don't want to give that away unless my hand is forced to do so.
With the rookies, Caleb Banks and Dominic Orange, their progression and walk up to the Packers game in 20 days. What have you seen with that development from the joints? And they both played a lot Saturday. What do you think?
Yeah, I think there's going to be some growing pains with those two, but I think the fact that they got so much run rotating in with the starters during joint practices, and they think they played darn near every snap of the preseason, or the first half of the preseason game on Saturday, leads me to believe that Brian Flores, Ryan Nielsen, the defensive staff as a whole want them to be contributors right away, or are giving them the opportunity to rotate in with the Jalen Redmonds, the Levi Drake Rodriguez, the Ty Ingram Dawkins of the world. I think there's a spot for Caleb Banks and Dominique Orange in that defensive line rotation right away. But I think with that comes probably some growing pains. Like I said, I think you watch Caleb Banks the other day, it looked way better than it did against the New York Giants, but there were still struggles with his pad level. I think me and you have talked, PA. He's as menacing and imposing of a defensive lineman as I've seen.
What do you mean pad level? Like, I've heard O'Connell say that, but like, what does it mean?
So Caleb Banks is 6'6", 330. He is high. He's when he lines up across from a defensive or an offensive lineman, that guy's already lower than him just because of the way Caleb Banks' body is constructed. And it's the cliche, but low man wins in the trenches. So when you see Caleb Banks get driven 8 yards downfield on a run blocking play, well, that's because he just has to get his pad level a little bit lower. His ball get off, it has to be a little bit faster. When that ball is snapped and you're already higher than the offensive lineman, you either have to overpower them or just work to get yourself a little bit lower so not to get driven back. So I think you're going to see some of those things with Caleb and with Dominique Orange. But you're also going to see, I mean, there was a play the other day where I think you were talking about it earlier. Caleb Banks lined up across from a tight end and just works him, puts him in the ground. There's high enough moments, or I've seen high enough moments through training camp, joint practices, and preseason to feel like Caleb Banks is going to be able to make an impact in some way, shape, or form. And I feel the same way about Dominique Orange. I think he's probably further along than I thought he would be at this point in his career.
You know who I believe, I'm not a here's the reality Dane guy, but who I think is farther along than both of them, Elijah Williams, 99. I mean, big Morgan State guy. I mean, he's twitchy. And the context is, okay, it was the Ravens, mostly the backup offensive line, but I saw him get twitchy with that first-round pick. The Yawani or whatever. So it's he's going to play. So that buys you time with 95 and 97, right?
For sure. And yeah, I'm glad
you like him.
I'm glad you brought him up because he is. See, we all do I do, them. Alec does it. Ben does it. Matthew Collar, Kevin Seifert. We all do our 53-man roster.
Oh yeah, it's fun.
I've just kept cutting Elijah Williams for Isaiah Loudermilk because I want to put more veteran experience in that room.
I kept forgetting Tavier Thomas was on the team last week.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, well, 37 has to be in there.
Exactly. So when you're splitting hairs there, like I've continued to cut Elijah Williams, and I can't do it anymore because he's too good. He performs every single time he's given an opportunity. He graded out if you trust and believe PFF, like he graded out very well in the Giants game.
Pro Football Focus closed.
No, they're still running and they're still doing grades. And, and I think it's a good within reason reference point to who played well, who struggled. His grade against the Giants in the preseason opener was very, very high, and his grade against the Ravens the other day was the highest on the defense.
Jeez.
He just keeps making plays. He plays with the twitchiness, but he's also powerful. He's a guy who I think he was a rookie tryout guy that ends up making the team last year as a UDFA.
Wow.
And continues to grow. So
he was one of those Thielen Cheryl's bits?
I think so. I could be wrong.
Chad Beebe? Wow.
I think he was an invite. If not, he was certainly a UDFA.
Got it.
And he does buy you time. So if Caleb Banks and Dominique Orange are still who you probably want to build around down the road, Elijah Williams is a fantastic depth piece that makes it so, hey, maybe Caleb Banks doesn't have it today, or maybe Dominique Orange is struggling, to adapt today. They have a guy like Elijah Williams waiting in the wings that not only can do the job, but can make high-level plays in the trenches as well.
The vaunted third edge. So it was Van Ginkel and Grenard last year, then Dallas Turner. Now, Dallas Turner, Van Ginkel, Messrs. Batty, Ingram Dawkins, Richter, they come to mind. Or are you actively working on a cell phone number for Hassan Reddick?
I always love that one.
I think since the beginning of training camp, I've assumed they were going to sign a veteran edge rusher at some point. And this is no fault to Tyler Batty or Bo Richter or Chaz Chambliss or whoever has been competing. I think the edge department has done a really good job throughout training camp, but I'm still in the camp of go bring in a veteran. And I actually might be more emboldened to bring in a veteran after watching, if I'm Nolan Teasley, watching my team perform against the Ravens, because they looked really good. And I think that maybe if you add another veteran edge, that might raise your ceiling even more. So whether it's a Hassan Reddick or, Von Miller's already signed, Davion Clowney's already signed. I think Derek Barnett already signed.
What about Van Noy?
He's still out there. So the wave of guys or the wave of veterans starting to sign is upon us. So it wouldn't surprise me. And this is not reporting. This is just, it wouldn't surprise me reading the tea leaves of what's been going on around the league and what I think they need. If at some point they bring in another edge rusher.
So in closing, if you happen to see super popular agent Drew Rosenhaus at Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center, do you believe he'd be there to talk about a Van Ginkel extension or Hassan Reddick potentially joining the Covenant because he represents both?
Two birds with one stone, right? If you're Drew, just go get it all done right then. He represents a couple other guys too, so knock them all out while you got it.
All right, thanks for the help.
Yeah, can't wait for September 13th. Let's get there already.
Same. Dane Mizutani at Dane Mizutani VX. TwinCities.com. Very inexpensive to subscribe and to follow Dane's work. TwinCities.com. The Owl Roofing post game is next.
This is 9 to noon, live on iHeartRadio.
Let's pay off the post game courtesy of Owl Roofing and owlroofing.com. 9 to noon has 1% of the radio show to go. So that means you missed a lot. We like to recap some things that we think would be compelling or intriguing for you to go back and find via the podcast, 9 to noon on demand, KFAN.com. Here comes the con.
The con is here. Pete Bursich joined us during the 10 a.m. hour, and I asked him, hey, Ty Ingram Dawkins, I like him as a big guy in the middle, defensive interior guy. He's playing at edge. What's up with Ty on the edge?
I think he made a huge improvement from week 1 to week 2. And again, it's not
it's not that he can't do it. It's the vision, distance, and timing of the position. That things happen at a completely different pace and a completely different way when you're on the edge trying to keep contained as compared to when you're a defensive tackle. His snaps at defensive tackle have all been very good. So he's got that down. Now they're asking him to be that. His role, I believe, will be to be that big body on the outside, kind of like a Jonathan Grenard, right? To be able to set the edge. If they want to block him with the tight end, forget about it. Not going to happen. If they want to pull somebody and kick him out, he's going to create a pile so big and destroy that thing that there's going to be nowhere to go. That physicality out on the edge is what I think they want out of Ingram Dawkins. And
podcast that for Pete Bursich, 10 a.m. hour.
I hadn't thought of that either. And I think Pete may have brought it up during one of the simulcast games where face changes for you and I with Ty Ingram Dawkins, I think they're required because we're thinking edge and we're thinking Grenard, Turner, Van Ginkel, bust butt off the edge, sack the quarterback, get up to 8 to 12.
Get to the QB.
Where the way Pete laid it out, well, with it doesn't mean that Dallas, Van Ginkel, and Ty Ingram Dawkins can't play together. So I personified or identified as an edge, but he could be mugging the A gap opposite the guards in the center, or no, that could be Turner, and then like the analyst laid out, Ty Ingram Dawkins can be the strong guy outside handling the pulling players and the tackle, setting the edge, just holding them there so the others can do their thing. Yeah. So that I guess I didn't look at it that way.
I like that from Pete. I like Dane Mizutani in studio today, and PA found Micah Parsons. He's kind of down on our football team, ranking the NFC North, and he put the Vikings last.
And then obviously Minnesota Vikings. They have all the talent in the world, but last year
Vikings?
And
they said J.J.
all the talent in the world.
They couldn't do it. Their last quarterback just won the Super Bowl. So they have their biggest question mark at that QB slot. Justin Jefferson voiced his frustrations. The team and went got K1. Will it happen? We don't know. We know what they're capable of when they're on. It's about can they be on.
All right, well, we'll see you later in the season, Micah Parsons.
Hey, Micah.
You can't talk that way and be taken seriously.
And then lastly, what did we learn today? And what maybe we didn't learn a ton today, at least in relation to the quarterback conversation, PA, because running through some talkbacks.
Excuse me, the backup quarterback situation.
The backup quarterback situation, how hot that thing is. And, well, opinions are still very, very mixed. Let's hear one of each.
Hey, Mr. Paul Allen and Mr. Eric Nordquist. I believe that children are our future, and I believe that J.J. McCarthy is the future. We just got to give him time. Thanks, Steve from Andover.
He just needs a little bit of time, or, well, according to this talkback, does he?
This is the Grouse Killer. The J.J. McCarthy experiment, whatever you want to call it, it's done. He doesn't have the mechanics. He never will. Throws way too high. Fastball. It's the same thing. We have the best wide receiver in the NFL. We need a quarterback that can get the ball to him. JJ, so long, buddy.
Yeah, so in the end,
I might punch him in the face.
We kind of end the show the same way that we started, PA. It's hot. It's the A topic.
Check your watch and tell me what time it is.
It's the end of the program.
Now peek your head out and tell me what the climate is.
It's also the start of the program with Dan Cole, the common man, and it's going to be hot. For Nordo, I'm Paul Allen. Thank you for the good times. May God bless you and all of your families. Thank you for listening to KFAN. It's a Talker Tuesday tomorrow, courtesy of Northern Fire. We'll be here for you, so join us at FM 100.3 KFAN. Bye-bye.
Lucky we got 'em.
Time for two more.
The game is over.
This is an old-fashioned ass-kicking right here.
If it's good news or money, leave a message.
Podcast today's Paul Allen Show, or listen back to previous show and interviews by going to the iHeartRadio app or KFAN.com.
From the 1-800